What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the TG podcast. We are here, of course. Got a lot to talk about, man. It's been I think the last podcast we did was actually before the Real game, wasn't it? Second leg.
Yeah.
So a lot has happened since then. We have made it to semi-finals of the Champions League, so we'll talk about that as well. We had a game on Sunday, a training session, as Dom told me before the team even started. And yeah, we're gonna go all through that today. And of course, we have another game on Wednesday against Palace midweek. So we're gonna go all through that today, guys. Big at everyone as always. We've got Dom, Rory with us. I think a few others will be joining us a bit later on, they said. But how you guys doing? How you boys been keeping? Good?
Yeah, I tell you what, I went from praying for Real Madrid to praying that Josh doesn't get robbed yesterday. So, yeah, I'm actually relieved more than anything.
Dom don't know the story, does he? My phone charger, right, yesterday. What? Because I got the phone charger from Poundland. You know how crap they are, right?
Oh,
I
man.
got them from Poundland, right? And it snapped, like the wire came out. So I was home alone as well. My mum and my brother, they all went away, right? So I had no phone for the whole night. And my biggest worry is about me getting robbed. Like, if I ain't got a phone, how am I gonna call the police, mate? I'm gonna be cooked. So yeah, there we go. But thankfully, guys, it all went well. And plus, people say, why don't you buy a charger? Well, it was what, Easter Sunday, weren't it? All the shops were shut. So I had no phone. I had no phone. It just it's mad. But anyway, apart from that, we're all good. And man said, "Did your dog die?" Yeah, they got Drew as well. That was so funny. Man was like, "If your dog dies, send it to the local takeaway." I was like, "You can't say that." But anyway, um, listen, it's been a great week for Arsenal, man. Champions League semis. Battering Ipswich 4-0, playing some great football. So before we talk about the Champions League, we're gonna start with the game on yesterday, yeah, against Ipswich. 4-0 win, clean sheet. Absolute light work. We relegated them, and I said it in my match reaction, right? Like, I had a bit of sympathy for Ipswich, sort of I felt bad for them that they got relegated. But after what they was doing to Saka, ruining him the whole game, yeah, I was like, yo, what are you guys? You salty about the red card? It was a clear red card. And the whole time they was booing Saka, I was like, nah, they screw them. I'm sorry,
Apparently,
but
they were booing Sterling as well.
yeah, weird. Wait, there's Bruno Sterling as well. That's weird,
I think
weird,
so.
weird bunch of fans. To be honest with you, there. But yeah, 4-0 win. We saw Mikel Marino. I know Trossard got man of the match because he's brace and some of the goal avoidments, but Mikel Marino for me was my man of the match in the game. And we're going to talk about him separately, I think, and how much of an impact he has had recently with his new position change. But I'll start with you, Don, first, mate. I mean, training session. I've got to agree with you, mate. But who are some of the players who really stood out to you in the game, bro?
No, I'm just
No,
trolling
no, no,
Rory.
no, no.
I don't even want to hear you for the rest of the flipping stream, That's it, me and you were done.
We ain't friends no more.
I knew you were going to do that as well.
At least I'm predictable, right? Bit like Arsenal's attack at times this year. I mean, yeah, as you say, it was a training game, right? Not a lot really happened. Hey, Luca. It was a real easy game, golfing quality, and credit to the Ipswich manager afterwards. He just said it was the best football in that first half hour or so that they'd faced all season. They couldn't live with us, and it's good to see that because we haven't seen that enough this season. Although we scored +4 goals more than I thought this season. I thought that was about the second time we've done it, but I think it's 3 or 4. But good to in domestically anyway. But yeah, it was easy. As you say, Trossard gets the man of the match for the 2 goals, understandably so. But Mikel Moreno, he started to sort of show what he's made of. I said early on that we needed to not judge him too early, given the fact that he'd come in, got the injury in that first training session with that freak accident and was in and out of the side, in and out of training as he sort of picked up a couple of minor knocks. And even when he came into the side was changing so much around him as more and more players went round. I think, he's obviously getting the plaudits as number 9. He's not going to be a number 9 going forward. He's going to revert back to the sort of 6-8 role in midfield. in all likelihood going forward. But it's clearly taken that confidence. I think he's clearly shown what he's about. And it was really good to see him move back to his natural position and play really, really well. Because I think his number 9 exploits, he's sort of running a bit hot. I think if he played 38 games there next season, he's not going to continue the scoring record he's got at the moment, because he's not that player, and nor should he be. And he's certainly not the solution. And Arsenal know that. They're not going to think he's the long-term solution. This is about getting through. But really, really pleased for him to see him play well there. A couple other sort of players that went under the radar a little bit yesterday. I thought Zinchenko played well from left back into that midfield. Spoke about him pre-season. These are the sort of games that Zinchenko is made for. Obviously, no one at that point could have seen the emergence of Miles Lewis-Skelly, who's sort of done what Zinchenko does on steroids. But no one would have known that pre-season. But I thought Zinchenko played well. Another good performance from Martinelli. And Jakub Kiwior, again, continues to play well at defender. I mean, he was hardly tested yesterday, to be fair, but, he sort of brought the ball out and brought it forward quite nicely. And he continues to sort of, show the faith that Arteta had in him. So, yeah, a couple of very good performance all round, but, you have to caveat that all with Ipswich were terrible, and they played for the vast majority of the game, as we know how hard that is for a lot of games this season with 10 men, which makes it really hard to sort of judge the performance. But big 3 points and a need of 3 points. Newcastle dropped points. We need. We'll talk about it later, I'm sure. But Crystal Palace, we need to follow it up with another 3 points. And I think we do that. I think second place it's obviously not sewn up, but I think that's in the bag, and that wasn't what we wanted at the season, but that's where we are.
Yeah, no, very well said, man. Very well said. Luca, how you doing, man? You good?
I'm good, man. I just got back from
Good win, weren't it, man, for the Dons? Limbs, mate, weren't it?
Amazing limbs today, but yeah.
You're staying up, yeah? You ain't getting relegated?
I'm not getting relegated, so we'll see you next season.
We're going
Is
up.
that official now, Luca? Or
I think we're like 9 points clear now, so hopefully we'll play York City next season.
Oh, that's Rory's team. That is York City. Oh,
so you didn't need to boo them off like Spurs have just been booed off.
No, they're losing at the moment, 2-0.
Yeah, 2-0.
They've just been booed off at half time.
Yeah. But Luca, we're just reflecting on the Ipswich game, the 4-0 win. What do you make of it overall, and who's the players who stood out to you as well, bro?
I think for me it was a really good, comfortable performance. I did a watch along and a reaction yesterday, and I think it was a very, very good performance. Nice little comfortable win for the Arsenal yesterday in that 4-0 win. And I want to say, hope everyone had a wonderful Easter, Arsenal fans, whatever you did, ate plenty of chocolate and all that stuff, and done some wonderful things with your family, and big up to everyone. But no, thoughts on Arsenal's performance, really good performance. I thought Kiwior really put in another good shift again. He's really been stepping up since Gabriel has been out injured for us. Declan Rice continued doing what he's doing. We bought him for half price, and then of course I really thought Martinelli was really good yesterday. I think everyone played really well yesterday. I can't really put any and I thought Odegaard had a good game. I still think we need to see more of him. Trossard, of course, got 2 goals. My man of the match was Bukayo Saka. I know a lot of people said Trossard.
Saka, okay.
Yeah, because Saka had loads of chances. He had loads of chances in the game. So majority, I think he run his socks off. And with that injury, like a lot of people thought he was going to be out for a long time. I didn't think he wasn't going to be out for a long time, so I put a tweet out. And
Dr. Luca back again, yeah. Dr. Luca, come on.
But Bukayo Saka, for me, thank God he looks absolutely fine for Arsenal, because we cannot afford to lose that caliber going into PSG. And I think it was a really good performance overall. My man in the match was Bukayo Saka. A lot of people getting it to Trossard. But one thing I do want to say, we do have Crystal Palace on Wednesday night. I said this in my reaction yesterday. I would not play Bukayo Saka and Declan Rice in a game against Crystal Palace, because we don't need Bukayo Saka in a game against Crystal Palace. Okay, maybe you can have one of them, at least both of them off the bench if we're like a goal down. And it's always good to win a game so you can build confidence for the next match. I know Liverpool will be champions next week, but we don't need to play Bukayo Saka and these sort of people. Like, give Ethan Wanieri an opportunity. Give Raheem Sterling an opportunity. Like, come on, like Mikel Arteta. You know what I'm saying? It's like he's lucky that Bukayo Saka. I know Arteta never put a foot wrong yesterday. He got everything right yesterday. I gave him a 9 out of 10 yesterday.
Yeah.
But he didn't need to play people like Bukayo Saka against Ipswich. We could have won that game without Bukayo Saka.
Yeah, no, I was interested to see where Ethan Wanyeri. Why was he on the bench for the game?
Yeah,
Because usually he plays his stuff
he
the game.
he scored yesterday. He put on a bit of cameo and scored a really good goal yesterday. On Wednesday night, I did a preview with Eagle Eye yesterday, Crystal Palace preview. My preview was done and dusted.
Yeah.
And I said in my preview yesterday, I said I would make a lot of changes. I'd bring in the likes of Kieran T. I'd bring Thomas Partey in the squad because he didn't come on yesterday.
Yeah.
Majority, I give him an opportunity. I give maybe Raheem Sterling, and Wanyeri and Trossard should be my front three. And then midfield, I'd go with maybe Partey, Zinchenko, maybe Odegaard, or Partey, Zinchenko in the midfield.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about that nearest to the time. But no, yeah, I'm with you. There should be changes. I think there was a few. I mean, I actually think we went relatively strong in that Ipswich game when you looked at it, because we had a Raya in goal. You know, I'm happy that Ben White got some minutes. I think he needed a full game. I think he got full 90, didn't he, as well, which is good for him. Obviously, Keith on Saliba, he's trying to work that partnership so they get as many games together as possible, because they're going to be Champions League going forward. And then obviously Zinchenko, as Don rightly said, you know, these are types of games that you'd expect him to play in. And the midfield was interesting because you looked at the midfield, there was no Thomas Partey. You went with Rice, Odegaard, and Marino, right?
Yeah.
And then I sort of noticed for the game, Marino and Trossard kept interchanging. You saw Marino a lot centrally at times as well. But I'm thinking, because we ain't got Thomas Partey, we ain't got Jorginho Weaver for PSG. I'm thinking he's sort of testing that out to see, what it's about, going in for the looking ahead to the PSG game. That's why he went that strong, I think. But no, I'm with you there, to be honest. Like I think Wanyeri should have started Luka, in my opinion. But yeah, Rory, what do you make of the game overall, man? And who's the players who stood up for you, bro?
Yeah, it was comfortable, wasn't it? I mean, before the game, I predicted 3-0 because I knew, like, surely this was not another one of these days where we were going to drop points. Like, it's Ipswich away from home. They've witnessed a few batterings this season at home. I believe they've actually won. How many games have they won at home? I think one of them's definitely Chelsea. And I think that's it.
Yeah.
So they're not a great team at their ground, and well, away from home as well, they're not that great. So I was expecting us to pummel them, but yeah, like the players, I'm pretty sure every single player was up to the standard that I expected. I thought Odegaard was a lot better the other day. I think obviously, yeah, he got the assist, but again, I just don't think the term better with Odegaard is enough right now to warrant a start in the Champions League right now. But that's just my opinion. I think despite him being better, he still needs to perform at a better level than he is right now. And we know that he's had a really poor season. But I thought, yeah, yesterday I think it was, he was fine. I thought he actually looked a bit better. I have to shout out Marino as well, because since February he's been absolutely outstanding. I was going to say he's been one of our best players, but I think that's a stretch too far. I can't lie, because there's been plenty of players that have, for me, outshone Marino this season. But since February, I think, you've got to hand him his flowers. He's been really impressive. And I'm going to say this now. I think I've actually said it for a couple of games now, but after a couple of games, I think he's better than Havertz. It might have been after Real Madrid in the first leg I said this. I can't remember the top of my head, but I reckon he is better than Havertz. I keep hearing fans making narratives about, Havertz should come back in once he comes back from injury instead of Marino. And I'm like, what for? Like, the guy's already got us knocked out of 2 domestic competitions. The Champions League is the only trophy we've got left to play for. So why would we throw Havertz in to the deep end in these next 3 games that we could potentially have coming up in the Champions League. I don't understand. I really don't, because at the moment, Mourinho, like, what has Havertz got that Mourinho hasn't? I'm actually struggling. Perhaps the fact Havertz can press from the front better than Mourinho. That's about it. Because he's not better in the air. He's not a better finisher than Havertz. He's not a better passer. So I genuinely look at Mourinho and go, you're probably our best forward at the moment. Number 9, not forward. I probably should have interpreted that better. But yeah, I thought he was really, really good. The flick, or the assist, should I say, was audacious. I can't lie.
Some are
Martinelli,
saying that he didn't mean it. I think he did.
yeah, I think he did. I think he did mean it, to be fair. Martinelli, I thought, had a decent game. I think since his hamstring injury, he's really improved, hasn't he? And obviously scored 50 goals now for Arsenal, which is really impressive if you ask me, considering the last 2 seasons he's not been up to the same standard as he was, 2 or 3 years ago. But I think this season, I think after the goal he scored yesterday, he scored more goals than he did last season. So I'm glad that he's starting to find his feet, and it could be Mourinho thing. I don't know. The fact he's got better link-up play, and this is what we wanted when Mourinho first signed for Arsenal. We wanted him to unlock Martinelli and get the best out of him. At the moment, we are slowly starting to see that, I reckon. Saka should have bagged a hat trick. I don't know how. Definite red card. I mean, we have to be grateful that he's actually okay, because that tackle was vile. So I'm surprised he actually carried on. I thought it would have come off at half time, to be honest, but he stayed on. And it seemed like he ran it off. He was only getting small treatment. It wasn't anything major or anything. He was sat on the bench and he seems normal. So yeah, he seemed normal. Sorry. Who else do I want to mention? Kiwior as well. I've got to give it to him. I think, yeah, since Gabriel's injury, he's really had he's really had a decent run of form, hasn't he? Alongside Saliba. And I'll get onto Saliba in a sec, but Kiwior, I mean, fair enough. And back when I think it was in like October, I was saying that he's probably the worst defender we have signed under Arteta's dictatorship, or the worst centre-back that we have signed, I don't know, since we signed them lot called, I don't know, Philip Senderos back in them days.
No, Rory.
Yeah,
Squillaci, Pablo
yeah,
Mari.
Squillaci, one of the worst.
Johan Giroud,
one of the worst. Back in October, by the way, I said this, when he was making mistakes and his confidence was really low. I was going in, I can't lie. Pause. Yeah, I think now he's had a run of games in his natural position, he's actually played really well, to be fair to him. And if he stays for another season, I wouldn't mind. But if he was going to go, we could get 30 million for him. Then fair enough, because I'm hearing that he's one of the quietest in the squad, to be honest. So I don't think Arteta really values that in the squad, does he? He wants players who are loud. So, and I don't think Kivior's one of them, but at the same time, he's low-key doing his business. And Saliba has become that leader in the back line, hasn't he, since Gabriel's been out injured? I think he's been absolutely superb. Ben White, nice to see him get a run out as well. And obviously Zinchenko at left back, I thought he played okay as well. So overall, I mean, and Raya, I mean, he might as well have whipped out a newspaper.
Did he touch the ball? I can't remember.
I think he caught a couple of crosses.
Did he take a goal kick?
He took a goal kick, that was it.
Yeah, a goal kick.
You know what I mean?
That was literally about it.
Might as well enjoy it.
2 goal kicks, I think, because he had a shot which went
Yeah.
wide in the second half.
And just quickly on Kivior, I mean, I've always sort of, Kivior's got a mistake in him, but I've always felt that he was a good squad signing. He was bought for exactly that purpose, and I've always felt it was a good piece of business from Arsenal. I think Arsenal should look to upgrade him this summer, and I think they probably will. And also the fact that he's playing well at the moment, I think probably increases his value. And by all accounts, he and his wife are quite keen to return to Italy. But I think it's really a really difficult position to come in when you're the backup centre half, because you're not playing consistently alongside your new partner in defence, and that chemistry and connection between the two is really, really important. And I think Kivior deserves a lot of respect for how he's done since he came in. He had that one dodgy moment, I think, in the first game he was back, where him and Miles Lewis-Skelly had a little bit of a mix-up. But other than that, as you rightly say, Rory, he's been outstanding. And also, just very quickly, while I've got the mic, I agree with you. I think if Kai Havertz is fit for the last 2 or 3 games of the season, he's a bench option. He doesn't start because I think it's quite difficult coming back from the injury, and secondly, Moreno is in good form at the moment. I think there are a few elements of Havertz's game that are certainly better than Moreno's in that position, but I think Moreno's link-up play is on par, if not that slightly bit better. And obviously his heading is there and his finishing at the moment, but I think his finishing right now is hot rather than that's his level. But Havertz does offer something. But either way, Havertz is the backup next season. But that's what we've been saying all year. Yeah. Havertz it's one of those things that really annoys me. Not just Havertz, we see it quite often. Is that we sort of scapegoat our own players really, really quickly. And it does irritate me, but it is what it is. But Kivior, as you say rightly, has done really, really well, because in October, no Arsenal fan, or very few Arsenal fans, wanted to see him ever take the pitch again. But I've always felt for him slightly, just because it's such a hard thing to do.
With I wanted to ask you guys this, right? With Mikel Marino, I know Dom sort of alluded it. He said it earlier with he sees him more coming back into the midfield, like next season, going forward for the future, right? But obviously, I said this thing to you yesterday, Rory, right? About, of course, we're gonna get a new striker in, but I wouldn't mind seeing Marino as like you bring him off the bench as another option for a striker. I don't know what you guys think. I mean,
yeah,
because I think he's better there.
Yeah, definitely as an attacking option. I mean, I ate my words when I said, I think early October, November, early on in the season, basically, I said that he's more of a holding midfielder, isn't he, the way he plays? But now I've watched him in, the amount of times he's in the 18-yard box, his aerial threat he brings, and the fact he can bring a different dimension late on. I think I see more of an attacking midfielder in Marino. I can't lie. Look, I was going insane when we played him at 10 against, I think it was Bournemouth away from home. I was like, why are we playing him there when he's a number 8 and we bought him there to play in that Granit Xhaka role? As the season sort of glided on, and the fact he's scoring a couple of goals from the central positions, I can see him being our number 10. I can't lie. Not starting in the number 10 role ahead of Odegaard, no. But someone who can come on in the, I don't know, the last 20 minutes, perhaps. I don't know.
But the thing is, right, like with Mikel Moreno, yes, we are going to be getting a new striker in the summer, whether it's Gyökeres or Sesko, whoever it may be. Mikel Moreno has done well in that striker slot. He scored 8 goals this season for Arsenal in the second half of the season, which is very impressive for a player like that. I think for me, look, if Mikel Arteta is going to use him as a striker option, means we'd have to get rid of people like Gabriel Jesus. But Jesus is not leaving Arsenal because nobody's not going to buy him in the summer because this guy's out for the beginning of next season.
So it's same with Tomiyasu as well, ain't it?
Yeah.
Tomiyasu.
We saw it with Tierney last year, right? No one wanted him for that exact reason, right? And it's going to be no different with these two.
Yeah, exactly. We're stuck with people like Tomiyasu and Jesus, and we're even stuck with Havertz. So don't get me wrong. Like I hear people were saying that Kai Havertz, get rid of him, and I'm like, no, I wouldn't get rid of him. Okay, yeah, the injury has really knocked his effect this season, and he hasn't carried on his form. I just feel like he's good as an option on the bench. If Mikel Arteta, here's a question I want to ask for everyone, right? If Mikel Arteta does get that striker in the summer, whoever it may be, whether it's Desco or anyone like that, and then Mikel Moreno is used as an option, does that mean we're going to put Kai Havertz in a number 8 role? Because if that's,
I hope not.
I really
Yeah, you know what? I think Havertz will remain up front, but I think Mourinho will be utilised like how a Fellaini was at Man United.
Oh,
I
God,
think
no, I
that's.
hope not.
Moreno as an option up front.
That's what, yeah.
But I wouldn't. I like the sound of an idea what Mikel's going to do if he is going to go down that route. I don't see him being a striker for the remaining future, but I think it does make sense if he does, because he's already proved it. Okay, he doesn't score every single week, but majority he scores near enough, and I think it might be good enough as a plan B option. It means you go and get that striker who's going to take us to the next level for next season, and then you have Mikel Moreno and his options on the bench because you need a bigger squad going into next season.
Yeah.
I think to answer sort of both questions, Mikel Moreno and what we do. I mean, Arsenal are going to sign a striker in the summer. I think that's quite clear. Kai Havertz will then become I hope he becomes a squad option, and we don't try and go back to this number 8 option. Like if we want Mikel Moreno or Havertz at 8, I want Mikel Moreno at 8. Right? He's a left-footed, and I think he provides balance to that. I've been saying that all year, and I think we showed that. He showed that against Ipswich for what Ipswich are worth. But I don't think Mikel Moreno is best off used in those forward areas. I think when you look at Arsenal, we sort of play sort of 2-6-8 hybrids, and I think that is his place where he can sort of make those late runs into the box. You can sort of see that's what he was bought for, was to use his physicality to come late into the box. And I think we're sort of seeing those sort of attributes really sort of come to the fore in this sort of number 9 role. I think the reason I don't want to see him as a 10 is because when you look at, let's call it Zubimendi to replace Partey next year, a Zubimendi, Rice, Moreno midfield is too limited for me. There's no sort of natural sort of flair in there to sort of
Yeah.
I think when you play it with those 3, I just don't think it has what we need it to have. So for me, I think Moreno is sort of is sort of a 6-8 hybrid role, similar to what Spain play. He fits really well into the Spain.
Yeah.
And I think in many ways, Arsenal is sort of quite similar to that sort of midfield that we have there. And I think Kai Havertz becomes that squad option, and he's a player that can move out onto the right if need be. He can be a late surger from midfield, but I think he becomes that second striker option, which I think is ironically his best position. If you are running, if you need a late goal, you sort of put him on as a sort of a second striker almost, sort of play a single pivot 6 and Odegaard and Havertz almost as 10, with Havertz is slightly further forward of the 2, almost a second striker. That's where he was so successful and so good for Leverkusen, and it's where he got his biggest success for Chelsea. And I think that's where he will be the option. But Mikel Moreno is a third option. Coming from midfield, you could take Odegaard or something off. If you needed to, if you were really sort of getting a lot of joy from physicality, Havertz, Moreno, and I call it Sesko for argument's sake, or Gyökeres, both are physical strikers. That's got a lot of options in there for that height, as well as some skill on the floor.
Yeah.
So I think that's where Mikel Moreno's future will be. It will be in that 6-8 role.
Yeah, that's fair enough, man. But when you talk about Havertz, right? Obviously, you have to look back at the recruitment, because now he's a squad player, right? You pay all that money for him, 65 million we spent for him, right? I think the only player, obviously, we got Rice 100, Pepe 72, all that money, and now he's a squad player.
Obviously he was bought for the number 8 role, right? That hasn't worked. But I remember when he signed, I remember saying this to Seb, funny enough, and I said straight away, for me, I felt that it was a bad signing as number 8, but a good signing for Arsenal from the point of view of he's going to end up within, and I'm pretty much going to be spot on as Adam. He's going to be within 2 years. He's going to be a squad option across the front line and into midfield, covering a lot of options. And unfortunately, that's what squad players pay these days. People are talking about Diaz going for 50, 60, 70 million this year.
True, yeah.
I find that ridiculous, by the way.
Yeah.
But that's football for you, and football wages. Kai Havertz costs that much because he's, won Champions Leagues. He's versatile. He's a German.
If Kai Havertz costs, sorry to interrupt, but what if Kai Havertz? You make a great point. If Kai Havertz costs that amount of money, at that time where we were linked with Kai Havertz. Nobody didn't want Kai Havertz at the time because of not just only the Chelsea reject. At Chelsea, he got 19 goals in 3 consecutive seasons. This season, he has done building from the 2023-2024 season, going into the beginning of this season, he built his confidence. He had a good pre-season, yeah, and then that injury came in Dubai.
Yeah.
Bang! That's really
I
not.
mean, how many goals were you on before the injury?
He was on 15 goals in
15
all
goals.
competitions. He was on 15
Was it
goals.
15? Are you sure it was 15 goals? I think it might have been
Yeah.
12.
Yeah, he's got it there. He's got it there.
All right, fair
I
enough.
thought it was 15, and I just wanted to double check myself. I think he was on for
Yeah.
20 to 25 goals in all competitions this season, Kai Havertz.
The thing is, right, in regards to Havertz and whether, I would keep him for next season, I'd definitely not say no to, like, I don't know, 40, 50 million for Havertz next summer, or this summer, should I say. But I'd also not say no if he was going to become a squad player next season. So I don't know, like, where my head is at with Havertz at the moment. Quite frankly, I still don't rate him as a footballer, but if he's there to provide squad depth, then I'm okay with it. I'm not going to be throwing my toys out the pram, crying about it. But if he goes, I will not shed a tear one bit because I don't think he's been a great signing for Arsenal. He's not been awful, but he's not been a great signing.
He's been what I call, an okay signing, right? I think again, I said to Seb at the time, I thought it was a 10 million overpay for him, and I think that's probably about right, 55 million. And as I say, I find it ridiculous that this is how much players cost right now. But I don't think I'd be taking 40 million for Kai Havertz in the summer. I think we'd be underselling him, and I think, one of the things Edu has done in his time here is turn around our reputation for selling badly and selling way below cost. To some extent, as we sort of move through, and I think selling Havertz at that sort of gets you that reputation back. It's a bit like Chelsea had the reverse reputation. Sorry, Luca, very quick. Have the reverse reputation for overpaying constantly, and I don't want us to go back to that reputation where we get fleeced constantly.
But the thing is, look, the thing with Kai Havertz is about next season, whether we do bring in Sesko, Gyökeres, or anyone who it may be, right? Majority is about whether Kai Havertz is going to be. You've paid 65 million for a player, and even when we paid people like Pepe 72 million, Declan Rice 100 million, do you feel like with Kai Havertz sitting on the bench, it's not doom and gloom if you do pay 65 million pounds, but if you do bring in the striker, what Arsenal fans want, what we want, that's actually going to take us over the line or even get us closer to a league title. Do you feel like 65 million is going to be a bit of a waste opportunity? Where
that's what I was asking you guys, man.
That's the problem.
I mean, in terms of that, would I have made the Kai Havertz signing that summer? No, he wasn't a player I wanted. Like, at no point was he that. I would have done something different. You can see with Mikel Arteta what they were looking for Kai Havertz was that big physical presence coming from deep to offer extra for the attack because we dominate the ball. I thought it was a risk doing that to Kai Havertz because you're asking a 10 to play 8, basically. So would I have signed him? No. I know he was a 10, 15 million pound overpay, as I say. My issue with people of Kai Havertz is that I think he gets overly criticised. But it wouldn't have been what I would have done. He is going to be an okay signing, and that's going to be what that's going to be. I think what he is going to be now is a really good squad option play off the bench, and that's what you need. We talk about Liverpool's attack as having players like that, off the bench. But actually, would I take Kai Havertz over, Darwin Núñez? Yeah, I probably would. Would I have him over Diaz? I think it's very close. I mean, a different type of player, so it's hard to compare. Having a player like that is what you need in your squad. I think we got there by chance rather than by design with him. But I wonder whether summer of 2026, I can't believe I had to look at the date to see what year we were in then, but I did. I think he will probably be a player that moves on because I think he wants to be a starter. And I think that will probably lead him wanting to move on.
Can you really see Arsenal domination, Kai Havertz moving on within the next, how many seasons would he get if we do bring in maybe someone like a Gyökeres next season or an Isak?
I think it'll be him wanting to move on rather than Arsenal wanting to move him on, right? You want players like that in your squad. You know, if Mikel Moreno is a squad player next year, if Ben White is a squad player next year, if Kai Havertz is a squad player, if even Ranieri, if Martinelli is a squad player, suddenly that starts to look like what you want a squad to look like, right? But how happy is Kai Havertz? I'm not sure he's that happy being a squad player because I
How
think
much
he will
value
start.
are we going to get for Kai Havertz though? Even when you have all these squad value players like Ben White, Morenos, and that for next season, how much is Kai going to be worth? Because the more, say if it gets to a point where we do bring in maybe someone like a Sesko Gyökeres, right, the right striker that's going to obviously get us over the line. If Havertz does get frustrated and say no, what have I done? Of course, right, it's not my problem that I've had an injury, but Havertz has not realised where I need to get myself back into full fitness to prove myself again. If he doesn't get played many minutes and is in around the team, his price could be worth like 40 million.
I think that's what the risk is, right? I think for that this summer, I think you'd be underselling him at 40, 50 million pounds, right? But I think next year that's where his value could drop to. I think it's one of the advantages of Kivior playing so much at the moment is you probably just put 5 to 10 million pounds on his fee. I think he's probably going to be, because it's going to be Italy, I think it'd be 20 million plus add-ons. I think Havertz will be reverse of that because he won't get the minutes next year. Going in. So that's something Arsenal will need to weigh up. But I think trophies are more important than value right now to Arsenal this summer. And I think Kai Havertz as a squad player is probably more valuable to them and selling them the following year for 40 million than getting, say, 55, 60 million this year.
Well, yeah, because the thing is, of course, depending on what striker we bring in, say if we brought in Benjamin Sesko in the summer, right? Surely that doesn't have an effect with Kai Havertz because they're both in a bit of a similar player as each other. Whereas if we do end up bringing maybe someone like a Gyökeres or someone that good that knows the league he doesn't know the league, but obviously proves himself to be that goal scorer to obviously try and get us further and all that stuff, then surely that means that will have an effect for Kai Havertz. Because if it doesn't, and if we end up bringing people like Sesko, maybe Havertz will be in around the team again. If Sesko came to the Premier League and he flopped, Havertz will come back into the team again.
I think if you sign Sesko, then Havertz, you definitely need to keep him because, you know, he's slightly unknown sort of quantity and he's going to be a young, raw striker. So I definitely think you want to keep Kai Havertz in. And Kai Havertz and Sesko, I think, would probably be in a genuine sort of competition for number 9. I don't know what Rory and Josh think. But I think if you bring in Gyökeres or, say, Isak, and I don't think Isak's going to happen, then Kai Havertz obviously becomes a squad player. But I think the plan is that Kai Havertz becomes... Well, we say it's that. Mikel Arteta may see it differently, but Kai Havertz becomes a squad player. But Rory or Josh might disagree with me on that.
Yeah, it's obviously surplus to requirements, ain't it? Like, it's all like... It all depends on who Arteta wants at the end of the day, because it's all well and good, you know, Berta wanting Gyökeres. Like, that's the guy he's prioritising. But I reckon Arteta wants Sesko.
Yeah.
So he can rotate with Havertz. I think I mentioned that before. I
think that's probably right. But I also don't think he's going to complain overly if he ends up getting Gyökeres either.
No.
Oh, no, he's not. I think his dream target is Isak. I think he's wanted him for a good few years now. But I just think it's going to be either Sesko or Gyökeres in the summer. So I think Berta and Arteta are going to have to come to some sort of agreement here. And I don't know. It's going to be difficult. I think if we let's say within the first week of the transfer window, we're in talks with Gyökeres, I can see us actually going full throttle for Gyökeres in the summer.
Yeah.
But if it's Sesko instead, then I don't know. It's a difficult one to grasp actually. Because as I said, I think Arteta wants Sesko to rotate with Havertz because obviously he paid £65 million for him. It's a similar situation, very reminiscent to the Calafiori situation. Like, whenever he's fit, he tends to start in our first team because he spent £40 million on him. So he has to start now. Not
I don't,
because
I don't think
not because Lewis Skelly is worse than him, apparently, according to Arteta, but because, you know, he spent 100 million, 40 million on Calafiori.
I'm not sure that I'm not sure I agree with that. I don't think Calafiori is starting for that reason. I think there is an element with Miles Lewis-Skelly is still an 18-year-old and you still need to protect his body slightly. It's the same with Wanyeri. I mean, Miles Lewis-Skelly is probably more physically developed than Wanyeri, so therefore can cope better, and we've seen that this season. But I think if Calafiori is fit for the second leg against PSG, Miles Lewis-Skelly will start that game, and I think that sort of tells you where the two are in the pecking order. I don't think Arteta is that bothered about price tags, to be honest. I really don't. I think some managers are, and I think you know you can criticise Arteta for some things, but that's not one I would necessarily criticise him.
I think he's bothered though about new signings. He's always trying to find ways to integrate them. Like Raya, for instance, last year, like we signed him, and then obviously ended up replacing Ramsdale, which was the right decision, by the way. I'm not saying it wasn't, but this is a sign of Arteta bringing in players. He's always trying to divert. He's trying to find ways to get them into the team. Like there was no need to start Havertz in that run-in in that left 8 role when we had the likes of, you know, in that December period, Fulham, West Ham. There's no need. Although Havertz don't think played against West Ham at home, but you get the point, right?
I think
Fulham
that
away from home he played. And
that was
most of the games where we dropped points.
Yeah, that was stubbornness from him, where he was like, "I signed him for this, and I'm going to show you." And
yeah, exactly.
I think but I'm not against him integrating new players, but I think that one of the things I think he learned last season, and I think we've seen it this year, is he will play what he thinks is the right person. You know, and he doesn't care whether it's Miles Lewis-Skelly, you know, through the academy, or whether that is, you know, £105 million Declan Rice, who of course starts because he's Declan Rice, but you know what I mean. I was deliberately using it to go to the other end of the spectrum. I think that's one of the things that has to be. I could be wrong. I could be proved completely wrong. But it's difficult to tell at the moment because everyone's injured, so he's kind of having to pick the side.
But it's not really playing them in the correct position, though. Like Rice has not played in his natural position all season. Calafiori is a left centre back who played centre back all of last season for Bologna, playing as our left back. Like, when have you seen him integrate players into their correct position?
Well, again, I think this is sort of a bit of I think positions are sort of a bit simplistic. When you hear coaches talk about it these days, we sort of see the graphic that goes up on Sky Sports because it allows us to see it, right? But Rice is sort of in a 6-8 hybrid rather than a typical 6, right? And that kind of is how we play. And we've been playing with sort of we've been looking for that player that can move into midfield and get forward from the left back role, which is why we've gone Zinchenko, Miles Lewis-Skelly, and Calafiori as that option, and why when we saw Kivior have to play there last year, who can't do that, we started inverting from the other side because we want that third midfielder. And Calafiori's, you know, might be a centre back by trade, and I think that's his best position, right? But he does have that characteristic getting forward, and you sort of see it at City with Gvardiol. But I don't think that sort of it's quite as rigid a structure as it looks when you put it down on paper. So I think Rice kind of is playing his natural position. Because he can do that box-to-box role. What I would like to see is actually Declan Rice be more of a holding player going forward, and someone like an Eze, and I'm just using him as an example because I can't think of any others, or Coop Miners, I wanted him last summer, that is that more natural, sort of slightly more creative player. Certainly for the smaller games like Ipswich and Brentford and Palace, and I'm not trying to disrespect those teams, but where we're going to see more of the ball, that slightly more creative player than Declan Rice is, which is why I think he's a better as a 6. But we do like to play the sort of 2 holding roles, almost reminiscent of Petit Vieira. You know, back in the early days of Wenger. I think that's just how we want to play. And that's why I'd argue that Declan Rice actually is in his natural position and is a tactical fit for what we're looking to play. It's just not necessarily what you sort of put down on paper as their natural position. I don't know what Luca and Josh and, you know, Rory, feel free to tell me I'm wrong, but that was my view.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying Rice is, you know, he's been terrible in the 8 role. I just think in that 6 position,
6 Declan Rice is so much better.
Oh, I agree.
Definitely. And I think what we need to do, right, let's say Zubimendi was going to come in, or if we were somehow going to keep Partey for next season, Rice should be playing as a double pivot for me. He should be against, obviously, you know, the the big games, like we saw in the Champions League and Man City pretty much at home, where Rice played a double pivot alongside Partey, I think against the low blocks is where you play him as obviously number 6, because he obviously does struggle against the low blocks when he's playing in that number 8 position, because he's often relied on creating chances, which isn't his game.
Yeah.
But in big games, I've said this before, that there's no other midfielder that can compete with Declan Rice. Apart from Bayern Munich last year, I honestly can't remember the last big game he's actually not turned up in. I mean,
but no one can compete with Declan Rice at the moment. Hence why he's been probably the informed midfielder in the Premier League so far. And even when you have a look,
this year.
But if we do get Zubimendi, right, and Thomas Partey goes, then Rice would have to play in a double pivot. Rice would have to play in a number 6, and then you have Zubimendi. If you keep Thomas Partey, how are we going to work the midfield out? It means Rice isn't going to be playing in a number 6 if you have Partey staying.
But
not guaranteed to be a starter for next season. It's not like Partey's going to be a right back.
I don't even know what's happening with Partey. I don't know if he's staying. I don't know if he's going.
Well, I think he's
I think he's going. You know,
Yeah,
I think he's gone. But if we win the Champions League, maybe he'll change his mind. But majority, look, at the moment right now, I think he's gone.
I think the guy does want to stay. It's just
I hope he does, man.
Yeah, but we just don't want to offer him a new contract. And yes, I don't really want to discuss it on camera, but it could be the allegations. I don't know. Which again,
of course,
are all false narratives.
Contract, does that not come down to Bertrand then?
Say that again.
Not come down to Bertrand if Arsenal don't.
Bertrand.
Luca.
Bertrand.
Not Ryan Bertrand.
Yeah, cracking sporting director him.
Not Ryan Bertrand, but no, but look.
Oh, there's a blast.
I thought Ryan Bertrand for a second. I'm like,
the guy's probably retired now. But no, do you think it comes down to our director, right?
With the contracts, yeah.
Well, yeah, but is that a bit of a problem then? Because sort of
I think Berta would want to keep Partey because obviously he's worked with Partey before at Atletico Madrid.
He signed him, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he signed him.
But now Atletico Madrid are offering him.
I think for me, it comes down to a Thomas Partey. It's a difficult one because he's played really well, and we don't know if the on-field stuff is correct or not. But that might, if they are correct, that's going to be a factor, right? But we just don't know. So let's put that to one side because none of us know, and therefore we shouldn't discuss things we don't understand, right, or know about. But with Thomas Partey, I think it's probably been made clear to him that he's no longer going to be the starter next season. And again, it comes back to this sort of thing I was talking about earlier with Kai Havertz. From Thomas Partey's point of view, does he want to sign a new contract? And then be sold next summer because he's a squad player after this year, or does he want to go on a free transfer now where he might actually get more money because there's no transfer fee involved? And I wonder if some of that's there, like he wants to know what his role is, and Arsenal will have sort of given him an outline of what that role looks like, and he might just go, I don't really want that role, and that's why there's no contract. Or is it that the club just like, actually, do you know what? The best of Thomas Partey is when he plays every game, every week. When you watch Thomas Partey have a break and come back in, he can look very sloppy for 2 or 3 games to get going. Yeah. And if he's that squad player for them going forward in their mind, do they want to put £200,000 a week into a player that actually takes 2 or 3 games to get going? And I wonder if those two things combine to lead to Thomas Partey not signing a new contract. I think if you can find a way that Thomas Partey can re-sign, I think you do that, right? But I think that's probably the way the club are looking at it. And that's why I find it difficult, because probably would I do it? Yes, I probably would, because you don't want to see a player of his caliber walk out the door for nothing. But you can look at it the other way as well, right?
So who's that? So the replacement for Partey will be most likely Zubimendi then, and he'll still keep Rice in 8. You guys reckon?
Yeah.
Do you feel like Zubimendi, for me? Look, don't get me wrong, he is a good player, right? But do you feel like he lacks a bit of stability a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the only thing that worries me about Zubimendi. He's a very good player, and I would take him for next season, but I do worry about his self-awareness from what I've seen at Real Sociedad. Because you know what? I reckon he's more of an 8 than Declan Rice. That's the way I see it anyway, because it's very, very good on the
In our
ball.
midfield for next season, then, because I still think we need 2 midfielders.
I'll take Bruno from Newcastle.
Yeah, but Bruno would be perfect. If you can't get Isak, you go for Bruno.
I mean, I agree with Luca. I think 2 are probably needed because unless Jorginho re-signs, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not against Jorginho re-signing, by the way. But because he's that depth piece. So I think what you're looking at would be you'd be looking.
No, I think you've got to move on, to be fair.
But I think he'll move on. But I think that's when you keep Zinchenko because he can cover you at left back and he can cover you in midfield as sort of your 5th central midfielder / your whatever left back it would be, 417th. But your midfield then is probably in the world where Zubimendi signs. It's Zubimendi and Rice. But I don't think they were 6 and 8. I think they're sort of 2 6.5 8s where they're both sort of, depending on where we are on the field, one will drop deep and one will move forward. And that's how Mikel Arteta wants to play it. What I do think we need to go back to the point earlier is we need that more attacking number 8 option that can unlock defences late on in the game where one of those two needs to come off to, get that more technically gifted, creative player on into the midfield. But as I say, I don't see it as a 6-8. I think it's more going to be a rotational thing, and that's how Arteta wants to see it, where, depending where the ball is, one goes forward. I agree, though. The worry with Zubimendi is that sort of physical presence on him. I wonder, though, Bruno Guimaraes, I don't see that happening, especially if Newcastle get Champions League football. But there is another name, and I'm going to go back to Crystal Palace, but Adam Wharton. I wonder if that might be a nice sort of fit for us.
Yeah, I wouldn't be.
Problem with him is he can't stay fit, so that would be the downside.
He's only had like one major injury.
It's one major injury. To be fair, you are right. That's very fair.
Yeah. Let's move on, guys, to obviously Palace on Wednesday. Just want another game. Now I'm more focused on obviously rotation. I said it earlier, but Palace are in the semi-final of the FA Cup against Villa. So they may rotate quite a bit and have one eye on that. But for Arsenal as well, as we know, there's no game obviously this weekend. We've got a week sort of until the PSG game. But I think maybe Arsenal will have a little eye on PSG. And I would like to see some rotation there. The likes of Declan Rice. I wouldn't risk Declan Rice this other game. I would pay Partey there.
I wouldn't risk people like that.
Partey suspended, obviously, ain't he, anyway, for the PSG game. So I'll play him. And, if Rice pulls up in the Palace game, then with no Jorginho, with no Partey, that's going to be bad. So I just wouldn't take that risk.
I'll get my boots on.
Get Dom in there, mate. Yeah, get Dom involved, mate.
Whoever's a midfielder who plays for a Sunday League football, get yourself on there and actually
get Dom, mate. Dom's a baller, mate.
Not in midfield.
I'm
not fit enough for that.
Call.
But for me, for Crystal Palace, right? I said this on my preview yesterday. I said, with a Palace fan, I feel like Arsenal need to make changes. And I see people like Robbie on ATV was saying, oh, Bukayo Saka should play. Bukayo Saka should play. Well, no, at the end of the day, I understand why Bukayo Saka, right? People are saying, oh, he should play because he's going to need more minutes. Well, Saka nearly got injured yesterday for a long period, and lucky he's going to be fine for the PSG game. I would not risk Bukayo Saka in a game against Crystal Palace, right? And if we drop points on Wednesday, Liverpool could be champions before kicking that last game.
I heard that they're all getting a squad together to watch the game, just in case they'll be crowned champions.
Yeah, they will. They're getting their squad together, like what Tottenham did when they drew to Chelsea that time when Leicester won the league title. It's exactly the same thing.
Man, I mean, every club does it when they're top of the league.
We could have done it if we didn't bottle the league. Right at the time, so majority, right. The thing is, I would rest players. We don't need Saka in the game against Palace. Give Ethan Wanyeni a chance because he scored yesterday against Ipswich. Give Sterling a run out. Right, I know he's not going to be here next season, but give him a run out against Crystal Palace. Martinelli, I want to see him dropped. I want to see Saka dropped. I want to see Rice.
Do you mean rested, not dropped?
Yeah, rested, not dropped. Jesus.
Sorry.
Yeah, no. Just checking you weren't sort of criticising their performance. And that I figured you meant rested.
Yeah, of course, mate. Yeah. Mate, I don't want to be wrong on that, but
Saka, absolute toss.
I would 100% rest him for the game against PSG because if something happens to Rice and Martinelli, we literally have no one. And Thomas Partey is now suspended for the first leg. And with that midfield yesterday, yes, it was only against Ipswich Town, who are relegated now. That midfield against PSG, I'd play Rice, Moreno, Odegaard.
Yeah, I would
That
too.
is the three, because I feel like Moreno on his day can actually pocket some midfielders and stop maybe the likes of Vitinha or Juan Neves. Don't get me wrong, they are very good players. But my starting lineup, what I'd go for Crystal Palace
Yeah, go
or
on.
United, the Emirates, I go with Raya in goal.
Why not Neto?
Nah, not for me. Get
Why not? Why not?
No, because look what he done. Look what he done in Girona.
What did you do?
He come out.
Oh,
of goal.
it was only that one error. Otherwise,
To be fair, right, Josh, we do need to win these sort of Premier League games to gather momentum.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
You
I
still have to
agree.
go with a strong team.
Yeah, I agree. You don't play Neto, but I'm not. I'm not gonna play him because of that sort of one moment. Right, you know, that's not why I'm not playing him. I'm not playing him because we never signed him to play him. Right, rare starts. I agree with you.
I'd go with Raya in goal. Then defence, I'd go with Ben White. Centre back, well, we're going to have to play Saliba because we don't have anyone else. Mikel Arteta is not going to play Timber at right back and play Timber.
Calafiori might be back though.
With Calafiori,
No, Calafiori won't be back.
Calafiori won't be back. He'll be back for PSG. He'll be back for PSG. So I personally think I'd go with Saliba. Pray nothing does not happen to Saliba, otherwise we're going to get cooked by PSG.
What do you mean you can get cooked?
Who do you actually play?
Who's going to get cooked?
Right, the centre back.
Well, the thing is, Timber can play centre back, or you play Tierney at right.
White centre back.
Or you play Tierney at right centre back.
Yeah, he wouldn't do that.
But Arteta won't do that.
But anyway, yeah, what's your lineup?
But anyway, no, I'd go with Ben White at right back.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd go with Saliba Kivior. Left back, I'll go with Lewis Skelly. Midfield.
Wait, for Palace?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
Lewis Skelly over Tierney?
I actually changed my mind. I'll go with Kieran Tierney, actually. I'm alive.
Hey, man.
Right, I'll go with Tierney at left back. So that's Saliba, White, Kivior, Tierney.
Yeah.
Midfield, I go with Thomas Partey.
Yeah.
Partey didn't play yesterday. I throw Zinchenko in this midfield.
Yeah.
And then I'll play Odegaard.
You play Odegaard, okay.
Yep. And then, of course, because we're going to need his creativity against Palace. And then up front, I go with Sterling, Trossard, and Ethan Wanieni.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. And are you confident for the game? Just overall thoughts?
2-1 Arsenal.
2-1, yeah?
2-1
You
Arsenal.
think...
I think it'll be a tight game. I do think we will have enough quality to handle Crystal Palace. Palace have got their eyes on an FA Cup semi-final. I think they'll have their eyes, and I think they'll make some changes as well.
Yeah. Fair enough. Rory, what change would you make for the Palace game?
Yeah, so I'll go Raya in goal, Ben White right back, Saliba, Kiwior. I play Tierney for this one, and then I'll go Partey, Zinchenko, probably go Odegaard for this one as well. And then on the right, I'll go Waneri, Sterling, and Trossard.
Fair enough. Dom, what about you, man?
It's difficult, isn't it? Because you've got a week to
the
PSG game, right? And we still need some points to win the league. So you've got to win this game for me, because I think that it doesn't seal it, but I think it takes you a long way. And it's difficult as well because Crystal Palace, you just don't know what Palace are going to do ahead of the FA Cup final. You assume they're going to rotate relatively heavily. They're not making Europe and they're not going down, so why risk it, right? So it is difficult to know what to do. And I think the other thing you've got to consider here is about how you're building your partnerships ahead of the PSG game. So while I agree with Luca, the last thing you want to do is risk Declan Rice getting an injury. He could get injured in training just as easily could get in a match.
True.
Actually, I agree with the midfield that Luca named for the PSG game. It would be Rice, Moreno, and Odegaard for me. And do you actually want to put them 60 minutes together against Crystal Palace in a week just to start building that in a game state scenario? So I think they're the sort of things you have to sort of look at. It's a bit like Saliba and Kivior. We've sort of seen the benefits of doing that, but of course, there's always a risk that you get the injury. So I think for me, you're also going to have to look at see how people sort of reacted coming back. So I think I'd probably start Timber, Raya in goal, obviously, but Timber probably starts at right back for me. but comes off for Ben White 60 minutes in.
Yeah.
Saliba and Kivior at the centre backs, and I'd probably start Kieran Tierney at left back there, because I don't think Miles Lewis Skelly needs some minutes at the moment. I then probably think you probably do start that three of Moreno, Rice, and Odegaard, just to build that chemistry. But I'd want to see Rice come off fairly early on, in particular. Possibly Odegaard, but if Odegaard is sort of playing well again, then I think you probably keep him on just to sort of keep that sort of confidence going. But Rice is the man you want to get off after 60 minutes. I don't start Saka and I don't start Martinelli because they're both relatively new back off injury. The risk of not playing Martinelli is he's sort of in form and flying, and do you keep playing him to sort of keep that going? But I think I'd probably rest them both. So that probably does look at Sterling and Nwaneri, and then it would be Trossard up front. But again, do you want to play Saka and Martinelli with Trossard to build that chemistry? But I think you can't risk those two. And that's why it's quite difficult to work out the team, right? Because you've got those chemistries that you're wanting to build. But I think something like that is the team I sort of pick, because I just want to win this game, and I just want to make sure we finish second. But I don't want the injuries either. But as I say, they could happen at any time.
Yeah. Nah, for me, I've gone similar team. Raya, White for me at right back. I get what you're saying though, Dom. It will most likely be, Tim. It could be Tim, but then 60 minutes and swap around for White, because he played a full 90 against Everton, didn't he? To be fair.
Yeah, and I think it would depend on his fitness, but I think there's a swap there at some point, whiziver way round.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, exactly that. Then obviously Saliba, Kivior, Tierney's got to be left back for me. Zinchenko in the midfield. Partey for me has got to start this game. I'd actually go Nwaneri for this game in the middle, where Odegaard usually plays. But I think we'll see more of a win. I think if
Saka comes on or someone like that, I'd like to see Nwaneri come on into the middle for Odegaard.
Yeah,
and give Odegaard a few minutes off. I think if Odegaard comes off, I'd love to see Nwaneri into that sort of 10 role. I really would.
Yeah, likewise, man. And yeah, obviously most likely Sterling, Trossard, and Martinelli.
Oh, hello. It was a goal.
Yeah,
scored.
Richarlison. I just saw it. Richarlison scored. Yeah, 2-1.
Not that. Not really
minute,
matters, but yeah.
Not enough where I should see it through against these lot. But what about? Obviously, he played 5 minutes against us. Against.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Man, like Butler, man, like Butler on the edge. He had that shot as well. He should have scored, man.
I swear that was his only touch of the game. I don't think he touched the ball since.
Oh, mate, it was a great save from the goalkeeper. But why not give? I'm not saying start him, but why not give this guy a bit like 20 minutes this time? Half an hour. He's a striker.
Why?
Yeah, but I don't know.
You never know. This guy could be a missing piece, people.
No, he's legal.
Yeah, like even if he was gonna bag a hat trick, let's say if he was gonna start or he was gonna come on, I still don't think, like, I don't know. Maybe it's a difficult one.
I know. If the game's
in here, then.
If the game's he's out of contract in the summer, isn't he? He's going to sign for some Swindon or something like that, isn't he? Plymouth. MK Dons, Luca, he could be your.
Maybe
I'll take him. I'll take that Luca.
But
maybe.
But I mean, in all seriousness, he's going to be a Football League player, right? I mean, that's going to be his level. I thought it was a lovely moment to see him come on and sort of reward him for his efforts in training and that sort of thing, because the game was done. If we're in a similar situation on Wednesday, fine, but otherwise, not for me. Arsenal there's no upside to Arsenal unless it's resting a player for a few minutes, because he's going at the end of the season. He's done, and
there we
that's
go.
it.
He's done. He's finished. Even though he's not got a chance. Even though he's not got a chance, but it's what it is.
I'll be stunned. By the way,
sorry,
in the summer.
Huh?
I didn't know he was under contract.
Nah, neither. Yeah.
I think I hope I'm right now, but I'm pretty sure his contract's up in the summer.
I mean, he is 22 years of age, to be fair.
And he's never done anything. He's never threatened. He's only threatened the first team now because everyone on their mother's injured, or was injured, right? Ironically, as players start to come back, is where he gets his debut. Ironically, but
There we go. But Yeah, there's quickly. Let's do some predictions, and I want to talk about the Champions League just before we end. I'm going 2-1 Arsenal. What about you guys?
2-1 Arsenal.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 1-0 Arsenal. I think it's going to be a really stale game, to be honest. Both teams are going to rotate, aren't they? I'll be very surprised if Arteta doesn't, to be fair, but I think it's going to be a stale game, and we're just going to get over the line through a deflection or something. Or an own goal. It's going to be the worst. It's going to be like the Ipswich game on, I think it was on the 28th, was it not? It wasn't on Boxing Day, was it?
The 1-0.
27th. It's going to be very similar to that game.
No, mate, it's going to be Jesus going to make an late Easter return for on crutches.
Yeah, that's their biggest nightmare, Jesus.
But no, I mean
Tomiyasu. I mean, Halloween would have come early.
Tomiyasu, Havertz, and Jesus off the bench, on crutches. I was making my Easter dad joke there, but don't worry about it. But yeah, it's a difficult one tonight. I actually think Arteta's going to go really strong for this. I really do. I wouldn't be stunned to see Saka start. I wouldn't be.
No, I wouldn't.
I really wouldn't.
I'll be very angry if Bukayo Saka starts that game because
Luka ranting.
Oh no!
We'll find out on Wednesday.
He's ranting.
So you would even rant if we were gonna lose on Wednesday? Then you would still rant.
Well, if he gets injured, then
if he gets injured, but if we lose or draw, then would you run?
No, because it's got nothing to play for. We've got nothing to play for.
Fair enough.
But
to be fair, right? Someone clip it just in case.
Yeah.
I mean, just real quickly, I actually agree with Saskia Guna. Calafiori, I think, will be the Kivio upgrade in the summer. But I think it's a difficult one again, isn't it? Because Saka probably does need some minutes to keep that body getting back used to football. But I agree with you, Luke. I don't want to see Bukayo Saka starting at all.
Neither do I.
But my point being, I wouldn't be shocked to see him start. I think Mikel Arteta wants the 3 points. It was so bad on Wednesday that we're going to go quite strong.
Yeah. But look, 100% agree Arsenal domination because look, I understand.
Luca, why'd you say his full name?
Huh?
How do you say Tom? What? Should I just start saying, yeah, that's right, Luca talks sports. Should I say that all the time? Or that's right, Red RD.
You don't see me saying, yo, Josh Millington, what's your opinion on Arsenal right now?
Hey, hang on, I'm getting brand recognition here. Brand rec from Luca. That's it's what marketing's all about. You carry on, Luca. You carry on.
Well, it's like acting on a soap, mate. It's like your real name's not actually your real name. So look. So Luca Talks Ball could be an actor.
Do you know what? Actually, on a Monday now, I get called Dom on the football pitch, having been Frodo for about 15 years. And for the first 5 or 6 games of people calling me Dom, I was like, who the f are you talking to? And then I realised it was me.
But I look for me. Look, Bukayo Saka. Look, I'd be very disappointed if Mikel Arteta does start him, right? Okay, fair enough. Maybe have him on the bench if it all but means to get some minutes. But we don't need him against Crystal Palace. We've got enough team to beat him without him. Don't get me wrong, Palace are a better team than Ipswich. Palace might want to build a bit of confidence the same as us. We've both got something to fight for. They've got an FA Cup to fight for, a chance to get into Conference League. We've got the Champions League to try and become European champions for the first time. So majority, there's an opportunity there. It goes to both ways between Arsenal and Palace. So I would rest Bukayo Saka and maybe play the likes of Ethan Wanieri, right? Even give Butler a chance. Come on.
What you said?
Butler. Reece Nelson, if he wasn't injured, Arsenal can recall him. So, you know what I'm saying?
Can we? Oh, yeah, no, he's back at Arsenal, ain't he?
He's back, but he's injured.
Yeah.
Season.
Is Reece Nelson been brought back, isn't he, for treatment, but Fulham's still paying the wages, right, over the agreement?
There we go.
And Man United have signed Cunha for the summer. That is a great signing for Man United.
Man United could get Cunha, to be fair. Yeah. mean, that would have been not bad for us. To be
I'm
fair.
I'm all right with United signing. I think that's the right level for him. And don't get me wrong, I'm right level by meaning that United are probably should be way higher in the league than they are.
I think we'll end up
Have they
regretting.
been crap this year? But
Do you think Cunha will end up regretting eventually? Because do you feel like he suits Man United's style of play if they're going to be moving forward? If they win the Europa League, then will they end up challenging next season? Because not straight away, but they'll be in the Champions League.
I mean, it will help. It will help their money, but they've got no money at the moment. I mean,
Yeah.
United are a mess. They need to do what we did a few years ago and just clean house and start again. And I think Cunha is a really good first step for them, and I think it's probably a good move for Cunha. But for me, I don't know where you play Cunha. For one, secondly, he's an absolute liability on the pitch in terms of his temperament. Like, I don't mind his temperament in terms of challenging things behind the scenes, but he lets people down on the pitch with his petulance and stuff, and you just can't have that.
Yeah, and to be fair, with the state Man United are in right now, is he the player for them? Like with his petulance and
would he actually?
I don't
Him
know.
and Fernandez, they get on like a house on fire.
Yeah, like when, like in this sort of situation, you want to be. I'm not this sort of guy, but you've got to be together. You have to be a family. You know what I mean? You got to trust the process. So I don't know. By the way, it's finished 2-1 for us. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Forest back to third.
But yeah, I think I would have taken Cunha. I think you would have played Cunha as the number 10 and dropped Erdegaard slightly in the 8 and then played Rice in the 6. And then you'd have, I don't know, perhaps Zubimendi and Rice rotating as the 6s. Because obviously Partey's gone. You've got Marino as another midfield option. That's what I would have done personally. I think I still maintain that we need another number 10. And if Cunha's going to be out of sight, then I would go for either Eze or Morgan Rogers. I think those are the two priorities that I would go for personally. But yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I think that's what I would do in the summer.
Yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough, man.
I just wanted to talk about, obviously we beat Real Madrid. We're in the semi-finals of Champions League. I put in that title, man. I've been going away. I honestly do. I think this is the best chance we've had in years, in my opinion. You know, yeah, go on, start us off, Luca, Mr. Negative. Start us off.
One second, Luca. Josh, when you say it's our best chance in years, that was a very Mikel Owen bit of punditry there. You know, stating the bloody obvious.
No, well, I'm used to seeing getting smoked 5-1, 5-1, 5-1 by
worse. We could go worse, bro. We've seen worse than bloody Bayern Munich. Trust me, Barte Borisov, bloody Ostersons. We've lost to in the Europa League.
Olympiacos.
Yeah, Olympiacos.
Villarreal.
Yeah. We've played teams such as Vorskla and Standard Liège, for God's sake.
Carrier bag as well, bro. What
But
go on, Luca. Start us off, Mr. Negative. Come on.
Oh yeah, Mr. Negative, Luca, mate. But no, look. For me, I said this in my match reaction last week, and the watch along. That watch along was unreal last week against Real Madrid, and I didn't think we weren't going to beat Real Madrid. I really didn't think we weren't going to beat Real Madrid, and majority, I think we've got a great chance of winning it. Do I think we'll win the Champions League? I think we can win it. I think PSG is going to be a very, very difficult game. A lot of people have doubted us of beating PSG. I see a lot of neutral fans are saying that PSG are having you. This is exactly the same thing as Real Madrid. I think we'll get to the Champions League final. Do I think we'll win it? I'm not sure. But I think we've got a real good opportunity. Josh, you said this last week. You'd rather play Barcelona over Inter Milan.
Yeah.
I said it the other way round. And because I know Inter Milan do have a very good defensive team and Inzaghi's a quality manager. But Barcelona, right, has now got Lewandowski out for 2 legs for the Inter Milan game. And now he's out for both legs. Does that give potential in Arsenal, Inter Milan? I do think we will beat PSG. PSG are a very, very good team, but we need to approach to beat PSG. We need to do exactly what we did in the first leg against Real Madrid. We need to approach them.
Well, it's at the Emirates as well, isn't it? The first leg.
To go and beat PSG, Arsenal need to go to PSG with at least a 2-goal lead. That is what we need to do if we've got any chance of knocking us to get to a Champions League final. And I think we'll get to the final. I do. I think if we get into Milan, that's a worry. I know I said in the past I'd rather play Inter over Barca, but I thought about it. I kind of flip-flopped on this one, right? I do think Barcelona is a better option, right? Because they'll be more wide open. And it's all about revenge of 2006. If we play Inter Milan, I don't see us being Inter Milan.
You don't?
No.
No, I don't see it either.
But you just said that you'd rather play Inter in the final.
Well, I did, but then I kind of changed my
So you thought about it in the space of, what, 3 minutes?
I'm taking Josh's words now.
So you telling me, that you'd rather play Inter, but now you're saying
I said before I'd rather play Inter Milan than Barcelona because Barcelona have got Yamal, they've got all these sort of players. Where Inter Milan and now I've realised that they've got like Martinez, Barella, Marcus Thuram, Fratesi, Diamarco,
Diamarco,
Jan Suma, all these players.
Jan Suma.
I love his pronunciations, man.
Isak, all these sort of men, Dumfries as well. They've got
you got that one right.
They've got so many squad depths. Like think about Inter used to have people like Podolski who played for the club. Cedric Suarez played for the club. So they've had so much squad depth, and I do think we will beat PSG. But it's about whether Mikel Arteta can balance and how we're going to play against Real Madrid. Mikel Moreno, right, should be starting that game. I do not want Jorginho nowhere near that Arsenal team against PSG.
I think he's injured anyway.
He's injured.
And the only player that's going to come back is Calafiori because I'd rather play Moreno, Rice, and Odegaard. Trossard's going to start the game. I don't see Ethan getting into the team. And it does make sense for Trossard to start because Trossard played against PSG last time, set it up Kai Havertz's goal, right, from that cross at the Emirates. So it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, so you don't
Luca, sorry, Josh. Can I quickly ask you a question, right?
Yeah.
Go on.
How do you spell? No, not how do you spell? How do you pronounce Kvaratskhelia?
Kvaratskhelia.
Not too bad.
Not too bad.
Right. So you can pronounce Kvaratskhelia, but you can't pronounce Jan Sommer.
No, Jan Sommer. Yeah.
Thuram.
That's who you meant. I was genuinely trying to work it out.
Thuram.
Thuram, yeah. Marcus Thuram, yeah. Yes, Luke. So, Luca, so you don't think we're winning Champions League then?
I think we've got a great chance of winning it.
Okay.
But I don't know, man. I don't know. I think we can win it, but it's just a bit. I'm just a bit like I don't want to like get ahead of myself.
What about you, Rory? Do you think we go all the way?
God, I did say right at one stage if we were going to knock out Real Madrid, we would go on to win it. But at the moment, I kind of still want to keep my feet on the ground, if you know what I mean.
That's fair.
I want to remain humble. We've got to obviously get past PSG first before we even start thinking about Barcelona or Inter Milan. I think PSG, after Villa's recent form, I know I said I would rather play Villa in the semi-finals, but the way they're playing at the moment, I can't lie. At Villa Park, and the way obviously they didn't obviously decimate PSG, but in terms of a second leg in that second half, they absolutely battered them for large portions, and they were lucky not to get through. So I think we can beat PSG over 2 legs. Obviously, concentration, discipline is like really important. It plays a huge factor against a team like that because they're going to be threatening on the counter attack. I fully expect both our wingers to track back because, you know, Due and Kvaratskhelia are unbelievable, with Dembele as well, who's pretty much on the form of his life this season. And obviously they can rotate, can't they? Because they've already won the French league, so they can obviously rest all their key players for that for the Champions League. So it's going to be difficult, but at the same time, I'm literally confident after the Real Madrid game at the Emirates. At the Emirates, I feel confident against anyone that we're going to get a good result because we can. You know, we are capable of winning. Winning at the Emirates. I think yes, I know we didn't beat Bayern, who were considerably worse than Real Madrid are this season, but I reckon that was a lack of experience at the time. I really do, because it was the first time we're in the Champions League in over, what, 7 years?
Yeah.
I think after we've had that season in the Champions League, we've sort of had the time to bed in, and obviously we've had the league phase as well. So we've had more games to adapt this season, and now we're in the semi-finals. I think because we've beaten PSG before, I think we could get a good result at the Emirates. But second leg, I don't know. I really don't, because they are hostile. I would almost argue the Parc de France is more hostile than the Bernabeu.
Yeah, they're
And
fans.
we were hearing like, oh, the Bernabeu is a fortress. in that second leg, bruv, I reckon Saka's reception when he came back against Fulham was louder than the Bernabeu that night. I'm not even trolling. So I think the second leg will be tough, but at the same time, if we get a good result at the Emirates, then we won't have to win. So precisely, you might have to win only 2 games in the Champions League to eventually win the whole competition. Do I think we'll win it? As Lucas said, I think we've got a good chance, but it's just who has more bottle on the night. So, well, on both nights, should I say?
You know what Arsenal are like. We know what we're like. We tend to bottle things. Remember the Europa League final, right? We bottled it against Chelsea under Unai Emery.
Yeah, but look at the team. Look at the team we have.
This team is a very different team to that team. Very different in terms of both quality and mentality.
I'll say apart from Lacazette and Aubameyang, we had no one really on that world class pedestal, did we? We had bloody Petr Cech in goal for that game. We had bloody Socrates, Koscielny and Monreal in a back three. Maitland-Niles playing at right wing back. Kolasinac actually couldn't cross a road at left wing back. Xhaka and Torreira in midfield. Although Torreira was decent.
Torreira's a good player. He just didn't settle.
Xhaka obviously has proved later on in his Arsenal career and later on in his career as well that he's a decent player as well. Ozil was on the decline that season, and then we had Aubameyang, like I said, it was good that season. But yeah, for 70-80% of that squad is just terrible.
Well, they weren't a team either, were they? I mean, you know, they were a team of individuals rather than a team of, you know, collective.
Yeah. We had to sub on Willock and Iwobi to change the game for us. So, whereas this time I've actually got not many game changes in the team, but we've got some decent bloody attacking players who turn up in the Champions League, as we've seen this season. The likes of Saka, Martinelli can, well, whenever he obviously has a decent game. Whenever it's his day, he can show up. We've got obviously Rice, Partey, who's experienced many of these Champions League nights. Saliba, obviously Gabriel's injured, I know, but we've got obviously Saliba, Gabriel, Timber, who's experienced in the Champions League, and then we've got obviously youth as well, the likes of Lewis Skelly as well, who's learning from the experience. So
and fearless as well.
Yeah, fearless. So I think we've got a good chance. Who would I rather play, Barcelona or Inter? I would say Barcelona, because obviously in the previous game against Celta Vigo, that they are a bit of a mess defensively, I can't lie. Although they are capable of scoring goals defensively, I think
Yeah,
they
but
are
our
weak.
strength is defence, isn't you know?
Whereas Inter Milan, I think if they were going to come to the Emirates, they would stink it out. Not the Emirates. What am I on about? Where is it? In Munich,
Unit,
the
yeah.
final. So obviously, if they were going to sit like 10 men behind the ball and play counter attack, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, their traditional three at the back formation, that is pretty much our kryptonite. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't see us. I wouldn't see us beating Inter Milan in the final, but I could see us beating Barcelona.
Yeah.
I think with Sacra Martinelli against their high line.
Inter Milan will be a very, very difficult game because it's very defensive, right? Like, people thought that Real Madrid were going to be very hard to break down. We've just put 5 past them. So surely Inter Milan, we can learn what we did in 2003 when we beat them 5 goals.
I wish.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
Real Madrid are open, aren't they? They're far more open.
Yeah.
I would have worried
Barcelona
about.
are open as well. Inter Milan are not wide open. Even they've got Barella in midfield, Diamarco. You put Diamarco in that cross against Arsenal, right? I know Josh is laughing about this. If you put Diamarco in that cross, you have to be very careful of Diamarco.
Luca, quickly pronounce his names for us. That must put it in the chat.
Which one? What all them names?
Yeah, go on.
Oh Jesus.
I'm not sure I can do these, by the way.
I can't even fucking say it. I don't even want to say it.
Okay, please.
Romagnoli?
Romanoli.
Wait, hold on.
No.
Romanoli.
I can't do these.
Romanoli.
I can't even see the comment itself.
Retegui.
Yeah, thank you. You got one, you got one.
Oh, I see it now.
Ralph Fagalia.
Where?
Where?
Ralph Bagalia.
Doesn't he do that clothing line?
Ralph.
How do you even pronounce that, Josh?
Acerbi. Right?
Reviga.
Acerbi.
Yeah.
Revega,
yeah.
Carnesecchi or something like that.
Carnesecchi, yeah. Acerbi. Say
I don't sure I can do these.
say the striker again. The Atalanta striker.
Retegui.
Retegui. No,
Does that come with a side of
Italian, Luca.
We get the message, Moss.
Thoughts on
Diamarco. Quality. Diamarco, Josh. Diamarco.
I think the point on Inter Milan though is that they're going to be defensively solid. It's a bit like why, in many ways, actually facing Real Madrid was arguably a better tie for us than facing Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, and I've said that as well.
Yeah. I don't think we just put 5 past Atletico. Because their defense is much better than Real. Real, of course, a much better attacking force. I think similar sort of thing applies for Barca versus Inter. But I'd have said exactly the same as Rory, which is you concentrate on getting past PSV first, right? I to do my best, Michael Owen. Any one of these 4 sides could win the Champions League. But there's some truth to that. All 4 sides are very well led, and all 4 sides are very good. I think we can beat PSG, and I think I take some of that faith from the fact that we are still very good defensively, although Kivior would obviously still be the one you would worry about because if Gabriel was there, you feel a lot stronger, right? You're a lot safer, to state the bloody obvious. But I think what gives me the real sort of faith that we can beat PSG is watching Villa get at them the other week.
Yeah,
now, I know Villa had to go at them. They had one half, and it didn't matter at that point if they lost 3-0 or not, because they had to go. They were out if they didn't attack. And, Paris Saint-Germain just sat in a little bit, and I'm not sure they'd be quite that naive against us. But I just think that shows that they can be got at. And I think defensively we are quite good. And I think there's an argument that Arsenal and Inter Milan, this means they'll probably both go out now, are arguably better set for Champions League football over 2 ties than Barca and PSG in terms of how they are set up. But you can't deny that both Barca and Paris have quality.
Yeah.
I think Arsenal need to play in a very similar way to how they did against Real Madrid, right? It's that solid defensively, strong, physical, play at pace, full tempo, and then, take those chances, because Paris will play a high line. We will get chances against them. No question. And we're going to have to beat another good goalkeeper in Donnarumma. But I would love to see an Arsenal Barcelona final and see that
Revenge, mate,
replay
revenge.
of that 2006 and get
Yeah.
and it be revenge. That would be the dream for me. But you know, I just want to be in the final and then go from there. But you know, it's not going to be an easy game. But I do have a lot of faith that we can get through this try.
People have put us as favourites to win the whole thing, which I look at
always a bit worried.
Yeah, but I look at it as like underdog sort of thing because I look at the manager side of things. I think obviously you got Flick with Barca. He's won the UCL with Bayern Munich. You've got Inzaghi got to the final when he was at Inter Man City. Then you got Luis Enriquez won the final with Barcelona. So Arteta's obviously not done that. So the other managers, I think, it's got a bit more experience at his level. So I kind of think we could be underdogs looking at the other three teams.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Di Matteo is the only one with no like managerial experience I can remember who's
That won the
actually
Champions League, yeah.
Yeah, and he won the FA Cup that same season as well. So.
Yeah.
Got fired soon after.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. But I don't think he deserves to get sacked necessarily. But yeah, I think that's the only confidence I have with us winning the Champions League this season because I just think defensively we are solid.
Yeah, defensively we are. It's just
and
even with Kiwior.
I think Thomas Partey out for the first leg, I think will be more. You know that will obviously solidify that midfield more with Rice as the six, will provide more protection to lots of Kiwior and Saliba at the back against PSG in the first leg. And I think if we have a reasonable lead going into Parc des Princes, then that's when you play Partey. I think we'll need him more anyway in the second leg than we would in the first.
Yeah.
Right. Let's say if we were going to have to go away from home in the first leg, then I would worry without Partey as well. But because it's at the Emirates, I think with Rice in the six, I think we can handle that. And I know it's Ipswich at the weekend, but we've seen that it, you know, there's some glimpses there that it can work. Trossard can bring that unpredictability back up front, where we're not pumping crosses into the box. So.
Yeah, exactly, man. But yeah. Let's go around the panel, man. I think that'll do the show. Luca, bro, what you got coming up?
Yeah, content-wise coming up, of course. I did just post my vlog out earlier. What we on Monday tomorrow? Well, next video will be on Wednesday because obviously I've done my Palace preview already. And we did 3 videos yesterday. We did the watch along for the Ipswich. We did the reaction. We did the Palace. Next video will be on Wednesday because we've got the watch along to Crystal Palace, match reaction straight after the game, and then of course after Palace we don't play till PSG. Then I've got the Milton Keynes vlog to do against Grimsby Town, and then of course we've got a PSG preview which I'm waiting for a response from PSG in it for Sunday. For a preview.
PSG
in it.
Is that Paris Saint-Germain International, do you mean?
PSG in it.
Yeah, PSG, a PSG YouTuber.
PSG in, you mean?
Yeah, PSG in.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be doing that on Sunday, and then I'll be doing a match reaction watch along for that. So next live stream will be on Wednesday for the post reaction and watch along to the Palace. So
cool.
subscribe to the channel. We are 65 subscribers away from the big 8,500.
What about pronunciation, B?
What in what terms?
Oh, leave him be.
In what terms?
You know.
Right, I'll name some Southend players. Right, okay, so
Smith.
God, isn't he fun?
Simon Cox, Niall Ranger.
They don't even play for us anymore.
Mark Oxley.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, big up Luca, mate. Every single time. Big up the Dons.
Thank you very much, everyone, as well, mate.
Big up the Dons, mate. But Dom, I need to hold on a minute. I'm not. We need to say congratulations, 100 subscribers.
Yeah.
Dom,
Luca's a couple away from 8 grand, and I'm at 100.
no, real talk. Congratulations, Dom, man.
No,
Well
thank
deserved,
you,
mate. Well
deserve
deserved.
To be
No,
fair,
seriously.
it took me like 4 years to get to 100 subscribers
Yeah,
on
it took
my
me about a
first
year.
channel.
Yeah.
No, thank you guys. I like being on places like this really helps like massively. But thanks to everyone that subscribed. I seem to be picking up a subscriber a day at the moment. It's going quite well. But no, that was a really nice sort of early Easter present. You know, that was you know, a humbling moment. So yeah, I think I'm at 105, 106, something like that. But
Wow,
yeah,
man.
no, but thank you. It really means a lot, to be perfectly honest. It really does.
I mean, I get a chocolate egg, you get 100 subscribers. What
I
an
didn't
upgrade.
get the chocolate egg, so you know.
You got anything coming up, Dom?
Yeah, yeah. I will record something to go out on Wednesday morning ahead of the Palace game. That will probably be the next video. I haven't got anything going out tomorrow morning, but I try and get videos out most days early on about 8 a.m. So yeah, look out for those. There was one this morning on, I can't remember, something. Jakob Kivior came up at some point. I had a couple of glasses of wine yesterday and recorded something that went out this morning. I think it was basically actually on what we were talking about earlier, actually, which was that use of a squad for preparing for PSG, and how the Ipswich game was Arteta sort of preparing for that with the way he set up that midfield. So there we go. Kivior obviously wasn't part of that midfield, but somehow I managed to get onto him for a couple of seconds. So
Nice one, man. Nice one. What about you, Rory, man?
I ain't got a clue.
Fair enough.
That's
There we
about
go.
it, really.
That's about
Well,
it.
I've never said anything really, but yeah, I don't know. But perhaps a match reaction for the Palace game.
are you having a match reaction using sign language after yesterday?
Why not?
Yeah, there we go, people. But,
We did our best, Rory. We did our best, but it wasn't working, mate. Was there?
oh, what a shame. What a shame. But yes, guys, thanks everyone who watched today as always. Appreciate everyone leaving the comments as well. Big up everyone tuning in, and we'll be back obviously tomorrow. As always, guys, big up and